Hey guys, coming back for the mid-season premiere, Pretty Little Liars, Season 6, Episode 11 of Late I Think of Rosewood, and of course, this did feel like a season premiere because of the fact that we have skipped 5 years ahead, and that had me a bit worried. I definitely didn't really know if this was going to work. I never really thought Pretty Little Liars necessarily needed a time jump, but I am happy that we're over the whole high school senior thing, because yes, that definitely was getting very long and drawn out, and now that the whole, A storyline is over, we now know who Charlotte De Laurentiis is, we now know all about that, it is time to move forward. So in that sense, I was very happy. But I didn't really know if this was necessarily going to work, and let me say this. There were definitely some things of premiere that were very, very strong. I definitely really did enjoy. But then there were some things that I just didn't really think worked, and mainly because of the time jump. Now, if this was a regular episode, I wouldn't have been as critical, but because this is a time jump, I definitely felt there were some things that just held this episode back a bit. But let me just get into, because, like I said, there were definitely some things I really did enjoy. I'm going to talk about everything that happened in this episode. I've got to say right off the bat that I love the beginning of this episode. I love the way it started. When they released those first 4 minutes, I really love where it was headed, and we see right away that Allie is very, very alone here. She's a teacher at Rosewood, which, like I said, her fate would be very surprising, and we knew, of course, that she was a teacher because we saw that in the mid-season finale, but we still don't know why she's calling herself Miss Rowland. She's not calling herself that yet, so we don't know why she's doing that. She basically finds out that Charlotte, who's been in prison, is going to be, might have a release hearing in 4 days, and she sends all letters to Spencer, who is now a lobbyist in DC. You have Aria in Boston, who's now a publishing employee. You have Emily, who's went to college in Malibu, and Hanna is a fashion assistant. And they go on a plane at the start of the episode about speaking to the court and assured Charlotte that the girls will come and she gets to return home. And I like the way we saw all the past things they've gone through, just showing how divided they are, showing that they all have their own lives. I definitely really seen the way they're thrown into it. I definitely really did like seeing that. So definitely I thought that was very well done. After that, though, I did feel things got a bit too abrupt, though. By the way, I gotta say, I love the new intro. I love that we're gonna be switching the liars every episode in terms of the intro. I think it's a really cool idea, because, yeah, it was kind of a question of why'd they always pick Aria? I never really understood why specifically just Aria did that. I mean, the show's called Pretty Little Liars, but it wasn't just Aria that was hiding something. All the girls were hiding something. I don't really know why specifically they picked Aria. Aria's not the main character of the show. There is no main... If anything, I think Allie is the main character of the show. I really do, because she's the thing that kind of drives this show. I never really saw Aria as the main character, so I don't really know why they picked her. So that really never made sense to me, so I like the fact that they have changed that. That's something that definitely I really do enjoy. So, right away, all 4 of the girls are back at the brew, and this felt a bit too far-fetched to me. I wanted to see more of their individual lives, I really did. I wanted to see more of them, say, oh, this is what I did, or this is how this turned out. I didn't really want to see them all, reconvene right away, and that's exactly what we get. Right away, all 4 of the girls are back together without Allie, and it just didn't really work, because, this is a 5-year time jump, and you have to think that maybe things were a bit different. I kind of wanted to be where these 4 girls, they're still friends, but they're not as close as they used to be. But no, right away, it feels like there's been no time that's passed, and just didn't necessarily work. And we see that Emily takes a pill and reminisce, and it was revealed that Hanna is actually engaged to a guy named Jordan, and Aria has a boyfriend named Liam, and Spencer was too busy a day. I do like that they tried to catch us up in this way. They marvel over 5 free years, because, now they're away from that whole thing, so they agree to hear all about Charlotte's release, and we also learn that Emily's dad died in service, which is pretty crazy that we found that out. But yeah, her dad died, and we see that Hannah, Ashley helped renovate Radley into this fancy establishment, which was pretty crazy. Just the little things that they did, all the details they put in here were very well handled and definitely very well realized. Not really, a lot of the details weren't really things I thought about, but really worked very well. Like the idea of learning that Emily's dad died. I mean, that is really how you do it. I'm just saying this specific scene where all four of the liars meet at the brew just didn't necessarily work for me. And I like that they really don't know if they want to help out Charlotte, but what I don't like is that why don't they trust Allie? What do they have against her? I don't get what they have against Allie. Like, Allie wants them to come back. It would make sense. I mean, Charlotte was involved in their lives. It would make sense for Allie to want them to come back. They just seem so upset about it and didn't want to. So I don't really understand why they still have this bond. I mean, this is 5 years, and when it's 5 years happen, things change. You're not as close with the people you were in high school. That's just a known fact. And I get that we're supposed to have these five, together all the time, especially these four. These are our four core central characters that we're supposed to have together at all times. But I want it to be different, and it really didn't feel that way for me. Yes, things have changed, but they're still best friends, and it doesn't necessarily work in my opinion. Definitely. And, basically, like I said, we learned that Emily's dad died, and, Ashley has turned Radley into a fancy establishment. It's now this, hotel, basically, which I thought was kind of a cool idea. We also learned that Mrs. Hastings is running for state senate, and, through her dad, Aria found out that Ezra was back in Rosewood, too, after his girlfriend Nicole disappeared while they were volunteering in South America. Apparently, Ezra got sick, and that's basically what happened there. So they did very well with setting up very quickly catching us up on what happened. I like finding that stuff out, just showing how much time has passed. That's something that was done very, very well. It's just, I didn't really feel that way for the girls returning. When they got to their parents, that's when I'm like, okay, now they're handling this very well, because they've missed all this stuff, and a lot's changed, and you really do see that here. So Aria meets up with Ezra at the brew, who she hasn't seen clearly in 5 years, and I thought this scene was very well done. You can clearly see that these two are still close, but they're not close like they used to be. He's very affected by Nicole's death. We don't know much about, Nicole as a character, but I don't need to. I don't need to know much about her as a character. I don't need to know, who she was, anything about that. I just need to know this was someone that Ezra was with, and this was someone that he really cared about. And just knowing that, I think, is enough for me to feel, bad for Ezra, definitely. And he feels bad to the point where he was late on the second book owned to Aria's publisher. So knowing that these two are working together, I think is definitely going to be very interesting and really change up the dynamic, definitely. Before it's kind of been, Aria and Ezra have always kind of had this thing, but now they're actually working together, and that definitely is very different. I'm looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. So Spencer visits Toby. He's building a home, and they're very friendly. He questions her on her return to town at Allie's request. And she talks about, how different her life has been and the things that she's missed and things like that. And I like how she talked about how they're still friends and everything. I like seeing that. I like how she talked with, with Toby, that they can still be friends. They'll actually help out each other, things like that. I like that she talked about that. I thought that was a good scene. And then we see that the liars, they go back to Allie, and she actually asks the liars to give victim impact statements that would reflect positively on Charlotte. Now, yes, I understand that Allie would want them to do this, but I don't know why Allie would be so cruel like that. I mean, I don't think Allie's been this selfish in a while. I mean, if anything, I think Allie's been pretty selfless, and here I think she's being really selfish, and it's clear that they're obviously not ready to offer forgiveness. I mean, this was someone that tormented them for 5 years, and they still have those memories, of course, in their head, and it's completely justified what they're saying. Them not wanting to, say yes to Charlotte being released makes perfect sense, obviously, because of the fact of what Charlotte did to them. And Allie's encouraging them to lie because she wanted what she saw as a real chance for her family. And I understand you have to look this, at this in Charlotte's way, where Charlotte just wanted to be loved, and Charlotte just wanted someone to accept her and love her, and I definitely understand that. But me personally, I don't necessarily know if it worked as well as it could have. Definitely, there were just some things here that I didn't really feel was as well done as it could have been. In my opinion, I personally think this episode should have just been setting up the trial. I don't think the trial should have happened until the end of this episode. And the trial happened, I think, a bit too early. I would have wanted this entire episode to be setting up the trial. Are we going to do this or not? And there was just so much to go through. I don't really think we had enough time to really, feel satisfied on this plot. So the girls are wrestling to how to handle the situation, and Spencer runs into Mona, who said that she still has nightmares despite the help of 3 shrinks, and I like that Mona is very, very affected. If anything, Mona seems to be is the most affected and mentally unstable out of all of them. I mean, what I like is that we don't know too much of what's going on with Mona, so that definitely leaves, character development for her, because we don't really know what's happened to her. We can clearly tell that she's been very affected for the past, 5 years. She hasn't gotten over what she's seen with Charlotte. She hasn't gotten over what's happened the last time they were all together, and it's deeply affected her. And just knowing this was Mona, I think is definitely very interesting. You think one of the 4 girls would be very affected, but no, Mona is, which I think is definitely very interesting. So Emily's catching up with Toby. They seem to have this newfound bond. I don't really know where it's come from, but they have a new bond now. And she confessed to struggling in the wake of her father's death. She really struggled in college, of course, because knowing her father died, really she had problems and in college wasn't what she wanted it to be because of the fact that her father died. It was a really emotional scene. I definitely think it was a very good scene. I definitely really like that. Shay Mitchell really portrayed that very well. And later at the hearing, Spencer insisted to the judge that Charlotte poses no threat to her, and Hanna said that her anger had dissipated because she's free, and Charlotte should have that chance too. And clearly we know they're lying. We can see the ring off a piece of paper, and Emily said that she decided she's not afraid of Charlotte, which of course, again, is not true. But then Aria comes up, and this I thought was very well done. We see that Aria, despite having a prepared statement, struggled particularly when Ezra walked in. She couldn't lie. She's just like, you know what, I can't lie. I can't do this. And, they don't ask her. They don't tell her to just say her feelings. What they ask is point blank, would you feel safe if Charlotte was released? And not only did Aria say no, not only was her answer justifying the sense of what she's been through, but just the flashbacks in her head. I mean, you knew she was going to say no, and that's exactly what she does. She says no, she says she would not feel safe, and she says that, and when it was Mona's turn, she expressed understanding of Charlotte's mental state and urged her, and this was not something that Allie told her to do. She did this on her own time, and I was definitely surprised that Mona did that, but I think Mona is more affected because of what Charlotte went through. I think that's kind of more of what it is, that Mona sees that Allie, that Charlotte just wanted to be loved, and she wanted Allie to love her, and I think Mona is just very affected by that, definitely. I think that definitely is very interesting, and I think Mona is also surprised that it's all over. She's not targeted anymore. She has no one to go after. She's nothing to be afraid of. I think it's just not normal for Mona. I think she's not really used to not being in fear, and you definitely do see that here. So she says to let her out and let her go, and the judge granted the release, which the liars had mixed feelings about, of course. Definitely, they're they have a lot of mixed feelings about that. So they go to the Radley Hotel restaurant, and Aria asks if it would just be the biggest joke if Charlotte gets to live happily ever after. But Emily pointed out that if A could, so could they. And they actually toasted to Charlotte, and though we then see that there's this security camera right there. So there's a security camera watching them, which we don't know what that's about. We don't know who's watching them. We know, of course, that he is watching them. We don't know who he is. We just know that from the mid-season finale, someone said to Allie, oh, he is watching you. Now, who is he? I don't fucking know. Okay, that's my answer, is that I have no idea who he is. I'm not going to try to guess because I don't know. So they all crash into Hanna's suite, and they're stunned the next morning when Allie calls. Allie is waiting for Charlotte to show up, and something I didn't like about this scene between Aria, Emily, Hanna, and Spencer is that none of them seem to feel any kind of sympathy or even take Allie's side. I really felt that Spencer would at least take Allie's side. I mean, Allie is her stepsister, so I think she would have at least be like, okay, I understand this kind of. You have to look at it from Allie's perspective. This is someone that Allie never really knew. Allie just wants to form a bond with Charlotte. She doesn't want Charlotte to be released just to be released. She does this because she wants to form a bond. She wants them to connect. She wants them to catch up, and she doesn't feel she got that chance, and she wants to have that chance with her. And I totally understand that. And, she's had to wait 5 years for that. So it totally makes sense why Allie would stay in Rosewood, obviously, because she wanted to bond with Charlotte. But Charlotte, of course, got arrested. So I like that we found that out. But again, none of the liars really took her side. So I really didn't feel like this scene was as great as it could have been. I would have wanted one of them to be like, well, let's at least take Allie's side here. And we didn't really see that, which I would have. I would have said, like, hey, you know what? Allie has a reason to be doing this. As selfish as she's being, she should get to be selfish. I mean, she's been tormented and terrified all her life, thinking someone's after her, trying to find a way to get out of this. And now, finally, the person that's been after her just wants to love her, and she wants to have that bond with them. It definitely does make sense, and I really like that. So they all go to Hannah's suite, and Allie then calls them out of nowhere to tell them that Charlotte's missing. She did not show up, and she's missing, and she returned home the night before, but apparently disappeared by morning, and we then see that there's this dead body being covered, and Toby is still a police officer, and so is Lorenzo, but Lorenzo's now a detective, and it was Charlotte who apparently jumped out from the church tower and committed suicide. So basically, Charlotte committed suicide, and of course, Allie is devastated, and this I thought was very rushed. I'm like, why did you have to kill Charlotte? Okay, I get that this show all started from a supposed murder. I understand that, but just the fact that they killed off Charlotte in this episode, I didn't think it was as satisfying as it could have been. I would have wanted more with Charlotte. In fact, I would have wanted the person that's after them to go after Charlotte. I would have wanted that, and I don't really think we got that. I wanted to get more Charlotte scenes. I wanted to see more storyline between Allie and Charlotte, and just to kill her off really felt like a cop-out to me. It just felt to me like, oh, people didn't like our storyline, so we're just gonna end it because people don't like it, which I think is really stupid. One of the reasons, and I'm not trying to compare here, I'm just saying one of the reasons I love a show like The Leftovers is because, Tom Perrotta's pointing out, we don't give a fuck what you think about our show, we're gonna do what's best for the show. What was best for this show would have been to keep Charlotte around and have her form a bond with Allie. I honestly would have wanted to see it, and killing her off just felt way too much like a cop-out and ruined a large majority of the episode for me. I was just like, you know what, that should not have happened. And in my opinion, the episode should have ended at the court. That's really what I think should have happened, that the episode should have ended at the court hearing, knowing that they took Allie's advice and that they went with that. That's how this episode should have ended, but that's not what happens. Way too much happens after this episode. So if you want to kill off Charlotte and you wanted to do this, fine. Do it in the mid-season. Do it in the finale. Don't do it now, okay? I wanted some closure with Charlotte, and I didn't get that. What I did get was finding out, Charlotte's background, but I was hoping when they would reveal that they would give us more of them trying to forgive them, and didn't really see that. I thought it was kind of stupid. So, not really stupid, just a cop-out, really. It was a cop-out, and it happened way too soon. So, Hannah's surprised that Caleb shows up, and he revealed that Spencer had filled him in on what happened and that he'd be staying in her barn, and Hannah confessed that she felt like Charlotte's death was their fault, since they advocated for her release, and when she was saved in the hospital. Now, I don't know why they're saying, oh, this is our fault. I understand that Hannah's like, oh, well, I understand that she's like, well, if we would have said no, then they would have, the person that was going to kill her wouldn't have, she wouldn't have committed suicide. I understand that. But I don't necessarily know why they think this is their fault. I mean, we don't know why she would have done it. It just didn't really make a lot of sense there. But it does seem that something is going on between Caleb and Spencer. They've gotten way closer than anyone knows, and definitely there's something going on with them. So that I kind of like. Definitely, I think that's kind of interesting. And also, what's going on between Emily and Toby? They're a lot closer, and I don't know why. So at Charlotte's funeral, everyone is shocked because Sarah walks in, and not only is Sarah walked in, she has the Black Widow mask. She has the black veil, over her head, and they're shocked to see her, of course. Why has Sarah kept her hair short? I don't know. I thought she did that because she was protecting herself, but just the fact that 5 years her hair hasn't grown back, I think is really stupid, and I would have actually wanted to see that. Just put a wig on the actress. It's not hard to do. Put a wig on her, I'd be fine with that. So, It seemed like there was much more to what happened, though, because we see at the end of the funeral that Lorenzo tells them that Charlotte did not, in fact, kill herself, but she was actually murdered and thrown from the bell tower, and Allie just leaves. They don't seem to care about her, which is something else that really felt broken here. The fact that none of them was like to Allie, I'm sorry what happened, I mean, it just felt like one of the girls would do that, and none of them did. They didn't even seem to care. They did not seem to care about Allie, which I thought was really stupid, and they should have. I think they definitely should have cared about Allie. Again, just you know, put yourself in her situation. Just put yourself in her situation, and then I would have been fine with that. But just the fact they didn't listen to her really didn't work for me. But basically, the end of the episode, we now know that she was murdered. She was thrown from the bell tower, and that's good, but again, I don't really think it needed to happen. And yes, I get that the show was all supposed to be Allie's supposed murder, and now it's kind of like rehashing that and kind of like paying tribute to that. But this just felt unneeded. Charlotte did not need to be murdered. What Charlotte needed to do is Charlotte to call them at the end of the episode and be like, someone is after me. This is what I think should have happened. Charlotte gets released. We go back, you know, Charlotte gets released from prison. Okay, you can do that. But then have her be targeted by someone, and then we realize that someone's go after her. That would have been fine. I would have been completely fine with that, and I think that would have been very well handled. But just the fact they killed Charlotte really does feel like a cop-out to me and a bit of a step back. But overall, guys, I was quite impressed with this episode. I like that they are trying to do some different things, but a lot of it is still the same, and there were a lot of things that necessarily didn't work here. Like I said, I think the bond here is good. Of course, you know, all four of the actresses have great chemistry, but it doesn't really work for me. You know, when you go to college, you change your life, you find new friends, and it doesn't seem like the girls have found any new friends at all, honestly. It doesn't seem like they have new friends. It doesn't seem like their lives have passed, but they don't really have any new friends to talk about. You know, they all have love interests, but not actually friends. And that doesn't really work. You know, definitely that's not necessarily true. The friends you have in high school, you usually don't have anymore. That's usually how it goes. And Allie being all alone, I'm not a fan of. I don't like the way they're writing Allie. I love the, well, let me preface that I really do love the way they're writing Allie. I think the way they're writing Allie as very vulnerable and very, you know, sympathetic towards, I think is really great. But the girls don't have any sympathy for whatsoever. Well, at least it seems that way. No one is saying, oh, I understand why Allie's feeling this way. Nobody's really saying that, and that really doesn't work for me. For me, in order for me to get invested in a storyline and have me actually care about these characters, I want to see that emotional layers, because you have all these girls, they've all had a connection with Allie, and they should care about her, because Allie claims they're her friends, which I don't think is true. I don't think they see Allie as a friend, and I don't think they are friends to Allie. I think they're simply just tired of her. I don't know. It's just something about that. It felt like they want nothing to do with Allie in this episode, and it really did not work for me. Definitely some interesting things to think about. What is going on between Spencer and Caleb? There's clearly something going on between those two that Hannah's not happy about, and that I kind of like. I like that we see something different is going on there. Emily and Caleb as well, something's going on with them. I mean, Emily and Toby, some definitely is going on there. We'll have to see what happens with that. Definitely. I did hear that something very damaging happened to Emily, and we didn't really get that sense here, so we'll have to see what happens there. Hannah's wedding, I'm looking forward to meeting Jordan as a character. That definitely is going to be very interesting. Let's talk about Mona. What's been going on with Mona for the past 5 years? We don't really know too much what's going on with her. Clearly, she's very traumatized. She seems very scared, and there definitely is something going on with her that we don't know about, and I like that. I like that uncertainty. I like not knowing what's going on there. That's very good writing. I definitely really do enjoy that. But overall, guys, let me know what you guys saw of this episode. Did this time jump work for you? I want this to work, guys. I really do. There are just some things I'm very worried about. It seems like they're trying to retain the same elements, but you have to understand that when you do a time jump, things have to change. And whilst things did change, I don't think enough change. Just changing up their hairstyles and changing up the timeline does not just change does not just make a show different. What makes a show different is exploring new territory and exploring new ideas, and that's not really what they're doing here. And I want to see more new ideas, and like Emily and Caleb, that's Emily and Toby, that's something completely different. Spencer and Caleb, that's something completely different. We haven't seen these two ever bond on the show. That's definitely very different. But having the four girls be the same group and having Allie off to the side just doesn't work, and I need something more than just what they did. But overall, guys, let me know what you guys saw this episode. I will see you guys in the next one, which will be for tonight's episode of Teen Wolf, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.